Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We're the place you come to really get under the hood of the sources and research that matter.
That's right.
And today we are tackling a big one, a play that's, well, incredibly famous, but also has this reputation, doesn't it?
It really does. Often seen as difficult, maybe a bit mysterious.
We're talking about Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot.
The full title, Waiting for Godot. A tragic comedy in two acts.
It's a tragic comedy, that blend of, well, tragedy and comedy.
Exactly. And Beckett, he actually wrote it in French first, back in 52.
Oh, right, and then translated it himself.
Yep, into English in 54. He was a Nobel Prize winner, of course, a giant of 20th century literature.
And this play, it's sort of the cornerstone of absurdist drama.
Absolutely. That whole movement grappling with the feeling of meaninglessness after the war.
And it's famous for that setting, isn't it? So minimal.
Incredibly minimal, just a desolate country road.
Yeah.
And a single tree. Leafless at first.
Wow. It first hit the stage in Paris, 1953.
Théâtre de Babylone. Caused quite a stir.
So, our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack Godot.
Yeah, get past that difficult label.
What makes it such a landmark? Why does it still grab people, puzzle people?
And why does it feel so revolutionary even now?
Even if the structure itself feels maybe challenging at first.
Right, so what actually happens in this play, given that stark setting?
Well, the plot. It's famously simple, almost anti-plot maybe?
You could say that. It's two acts. Both acts feature the main characters, Vladimir and Estragon.
Didi and Gogo.
Right, they're just standing near that tree.
Doing what?
Waiting for someone named Godot,
This mysterious figure they're expecting.
who crucially never actually arrives.
So how do they kill time? Just stand there.
Oh no, they fill the time, they talk, they joke.
Argue it?
Sounds like an old married couple sometimes.
No way. They even talk about suicide. Quite casually. It's unsettling.
And other people show up, it's not just them.
Their waiting is interrupted. These two other characters appear. Pozzo and Lucky.
Pozzo the master, and Lucky, his servant. Exactly. Pozzo's this tyrannical figure, and Lucky is carrying all his bags, tied by a rope. It's quite a shocking image.
Wow. And there's someone else too, right? A boy.
Yes, a young boy appears near the end of each act.
Delivering him a message.
Always the same message, basically, from Godot.
Which is?
Mr. Godot won't come today, but surely tomorrow.
Surely tomorrow. That promise that keeps them waiting.
Precisely. And then Act 2, this is where it gets really interesting, or maybe frustrating for some.
Because you expect things to change. Progress.
You do.
Yeah.
But Beckett denies that. Everything basically repeats.
Same place. Same waiting.
Same waiting, same characters, same interactions, largely. Same message from the boy.
Is anything different?
One tiny thing. The tree.
The true.
It has a few leaves. Just a few. 4 or 5, maybe.
That's it. A few leaves.
That's the only visible change.
Look, it's subtle.
And maybe deeply ironic.
And the ending. Does Godot finally show? Do they leave?
No resolution. Absolutely none. The
Yeah.
play ends pretty much as it began. Uncertainty. Waiting. They say, well, shall we go? Yes, let's go. But the stage direction is they do not move.
Wow, that's powerful. So let's get into these characters more. Vladimir and Estragon, Didi and Gogo.
The central pair. They're almost two halves of one whole, in a way.
Vladimir, Didi. He seems more the thinker.
Yeah, often seen as representing the intellectual side.
Hmm.
Or maybe the spiritual side. He remembers things better, usually.
He asks the big questions about meaning, time.
Right. He seems more aware of their predicament, more concerned, always fiddling with his hat, thinking.
And Estragon, Gogo, he's the contrast.
Totally. He's the physical side. Focus on his boots hurting, being hungry, wanting to sleep.
More grounded in the immediate physical reality.
And he forgets things constantly. Relies heavily on Vladimir to remind him even of what happened yesterday.
That dependency seems key to their whole relationship.
Absolutely. They can't seem to live with each other, but they definitely can't live without each other.
Okay, then Pozzo and Lucky arrive. Pozzo. He's power, right?
In Act 1, definitely. He's loud, arrogant, commands Lucky with a whip. A real symbol of authority, maybe temporary authority.
But that changes drastically in Act 2.
Completely. He comes back blind, helpless, dependent on Lucky now.
A total reversal shows how fragile that power was.
Exactly. The fall of the powerful. It's quite stark.
And Lucky, he's difficult to pin down, the oppressed.
Symbol of the oppressed, yes. Or maybe the overburdened mind. He carries Pozzo's bags, his stool, everything.
And he has that famous monologue, right? The thinking scene.
Yes. Pozzo commands him to think. and he delivers this long, rambling, almost incoherent speech.
It's like a torrent of fragmented ideas. Philosophy, science, religion, all jumbled up.
Precisely. It's often interpreted as the collapse of rational thought, the breakdown of meaning in language itself.
But what's fascinating is, even when Pozzo is blind and weaker, Lucky stays.
He does. He has chances to leave, arguably, but doesn't. Is it passive acceptance? Fear of freedom? It's deeply ambiguous.
And finally, the boy, the messenger.
He seems innocent, maybe hopeful. He works for Godot, tends the goats or sheep.
But he always brings the same disappointing news.
Yes. He doesn't seem to change much. Maybe he represents that faint, perhaps naive hope that keeps recurring. Or maybe just the mechanism of their continued waiting.
So, pulling back, what are the big thematic threads running through all this? Absurdity has to be number one.
Oh, absolutely. It's the key theme. The idea that human existence might just lack any ultimate inherent meaning or purpose.
And the play reflects that. The characters don't really learn or grow.
Not in any traditional sense. They're stuck. Their actions seem futile. It mirrors that feeling of being adrift in a meaningless universe.
Which connects directly to time and repetition.
Massively. The two acts mirroring each other, the daily routine, it essentially destroys linear time.
Like they're trapped in a loop. Each day is the same.
And that line they keep repeating, nothing to be done.
Yeah, that really sums up the feeling of futility.
It underscores the sense that action is pointless, or that they're incapable of meaningful action.
This must mess with their sense of self, their identity.
It does. They struggle to remember events, even who they are sometimes. Identity seems unstable, shaped only by these repetitive, empty actions.
Like waiting is their identity.
In a sense, yes. But there's also this strange paradox of hope and despair, isn't there?
Right. The act of waiting itself, even for someone who never comes, it gives them a reason to exist.
It gives them structure, purpose. Even if it seems completely futile from the outside, it prevents them from succumbing entirely to despair.
And Godot himself, what does he represent? Is it God?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Beckett famously refused to say.
So it could be God, or meaning, success, salvation?
Anything, really. Anything people wait for to give their lives meaning. The point isn't who or what Godot is.
It's the waiting itself.
Precisely. The act of waiting, the condition of hope, deferred indefinitely.
And that ties into dependency in relationships, too. Didi and Gogo needing each other.
Their bond is unbreakable, even amidst all the bickering and threats to leave. It shows a fundamental human need for connection, however flawed.
And Pozzo and Lucky show the darker side of dependency.
The master-slave dynamic, yeah. The cruelty of power, but also maybe the strange comfort or fear that keeps people locked in oppressive situations. Fear of freedom, perhaps.
So how does Beckett achieve all this with such, well, minimal tools?
Through some really distinctive techniques. Minimalism is key.
Bare stage, few props, simple language.
Very simple, and lots of silence. Pauses. They're incredibly important, written into the script.
The silence speaks volumes.
It really does. And then there's the repetition we talked about, hammering home the monotony, the lack of change.
Plus, everything feels symbolic.
Highly symbolic. The tree, the road, the boots, the hat, Godot himself. Everything invites interpretation.
And there's a lot of paradox and irony, saying profound things in simple ways, or vice versa.
Exactly. Deeply philosophical lines delivered like casual conversation or nonsensical exchanges treated with utter seriousness.
And the plot is deliberately non-linear. No real beginning, middle, or end.
Just this endless middle, this state of waiting. It breaks all the rules of traditional drama.
Let's talk more about those major symbols. Godot is the big one. You said his absence is key.
Absolutely. He is defined by not being there. His power comes from his non-arrival. He represents that elusive something that people structure their lives around waiting for.
So trying to definitively say Godot is God or Godot is happiness misses the point.
It can limit the play's richness, I think. The ambiguity is the point. His absence is the presence that shapes everything.
Okay. And the tree. It changes slightly.
That single tree starts bare, gets a few leaves, symbol of life, death, crucifixion, some say. Or maybe just the relentless cycle of time passing, even if human progress seems stalled.
That tiny change, the leaves, feels almost cruel in its smallness, like a mockery of hope.
Or maybe a genuine, tiny flicker of hope. Again, it's ambiguous. It could just be nature carrying on, indifferent to them.
And the boots and the hat, Gogo's boots, Didi's hat.
Yeah, Estragon, always struggling with his boots. The physical, the earthly suffering. Vladimir always fiddling with his hat, the mental, the intellectual puzzling.
So body and mind, both sources of discomfort and confusion.
A nice way to put it. That tension within the human condition.
Given all this richness and ambiguity, it's no wonder there are so many interpretations.
Loads of them. The existentialist reading is probably the most common.
Right, fitting with Camus and Sartre. Humans thrown into a meaningless universe, needing to create their own meaning.
Exactly. Vladimir and Estragon are trying, however clumsily, to do just that, to pass the time, to give their waiting some significance.
Then the religious reading, Godot as God.
Still very popular. The waiting is an act of faith, albeit a tested one. The boy as an angelic messenger. It fits, in a way.
Though Beckett himself was cagey about it.
Very cagey. Didn't want to pin it down.
What about a political lens, especially given when it was written?
Yes, post-World War II Europe. Some read it as reflecting the despair, the trauma, the breakdown of old certainties and power structures. Pozzo and Lucky's dynamic could be seen politically, too.
A sense of collective waiting for something better. After the devastation.
Perhaps. A sense of paralysis, maybe?
Kind of psychological view.
Seeing the characters as parts of a single psyche. Vladimir as reason, Estragon as emotion or body, Pozzo as ego, Lucky as the subconscious, maybe. That kind of internal conflict.
So many ways to look at it. Its impact on theater was massive, wasn't it?
Oh, monumental. It really changed the game. Broke away from realism and traditional plot, paved the way for the theater of the absurd and much that came after.
Influenced huge playwrights.
Absolutely. People like Harold Pinter, Tom Stoppard. You can see Godot's DNA in their work. The pauses, the menace, the questioning of language.
And that phrase, waiting for Godot, it's part of the language now.
It really is. It's shorthand for any situation where you're waiting endlessly for something uncertain that might never happen. That's huge cultural penetration.
So, summing up its strengths, profound philosophy, rich symbolism.
Definitely. Multiple layers. It challenges you intellectually, makes you think.
It rewards the effort, you could say.
Absolutely. But those strengths can also be challenging for audiences.
Right. The lack of plot can be confusing, even boring if you're expecting a story.
The silences, the repetition, the non-action.
Yeah.
It demands patience. It's not passive viewing.
You need to lean in, maybe see it or read it more than once.
Often, yes. It reveals more layers with repeated exposure. It's dense.
So, wrapping up, what's the takeaway for you, the listener? Godot isn't about easy answers.
Not at all. It's about profound questions. Questions about life, time, meaning, connection, purpose.
It holds up a mirror, maybe, to our own lives.
I think so. It invites you to reflect on your own waiting, your own relationships, your own search for meaning.
And even though it might feel confusing, every little detail, every pause feels deliberate, loaded with potential meaning.
It's a classic that definitely rewards patience, like you said, and invites endless thinking, endless conversation.
It sticks with you long after you've finished reading or watching.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on those themes.
Yeah.
Think about those ideas of waiting and repetition in your own experience. Where do you find yourself waiting? Stuck in cycles? And maybe consider this. What does the absence of something you're waiting for, like Godot never arriving, reveal about your own presence? About how you fill that space, how you pursue meaning right here, right now?